First and foremost, Dr. Bruce Grossier, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Before the game, we understand that Devontae Smith was going to give the hamstring a go. He didn't lead us to believe anything when he was having his locker room session earlier in the week, wouldn't tell the media anything. What do you know about Devontae Smith and where he's at with that hamstring, and could he play next week against the Panthers?
A good sign was that he was warming up with the team, obviously not in pads, but he was running, he was cutting, and I think it was cleared. Ian Rappaport reported yesterday that he would not play in today's game. And as we know with hamstring injuries, that you have to be safe. And so he looked great out there in warm-ups, but it was clear they were gonna hold him out of the game. And next week they play the Panthers at home. So I don't think you really need him next week. I think you might hold him back. You might hold him until you play the Steelers, who I've circled as really the next best team that's up. But the fact he was out there warming up, catching balls, he looked good. And I think this was an elective thing where they kept him out.
You know, I was just going to ask you about that, Doc, because, you know, to your point, you're playing the Carolina Panthers next week. With the offense rather doing what it's doing, is it necessary to bring him back? And how much does the extra week of rest, you know, allow him to come back against the Pittsburgh Steelers and be 100%?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say it helps him out a lot. He's going to be stretching, and they're going to be giving a lot of physical therapy to the hamstring. And even though today obviously was a huge game, they're very cautious, and smartly so, because they were able to win the game, and he's a big part of it. And you want to have him healthy for the playoffs.
What about Reed Blankenship, Doc? I want to ask you about him. Had the concussion, and it seemed like it was a rather quick process here. Usually, we're used to protocol being dragged out a little bit. This seemed like it was almost immediate.
Well, and to add on to that, you had Kyle Hamilton that went in to the concussion protocol, and he came back in the game. Just for our viewers, Doc, can you talk us through what the process is? Because 9 times out of 10, if a guy goes into the locker room for the concussion protocol, his day is usually done. So I was shocked to see Kyle Hamilton come back. They made a pretty quick decision on Reed Blankenship. You know, so the severity of, you know, one versus the other and what the actual process is that you go through that helps them make the decision whether a guy is able to come back or whether he's immediately ruled out.
So basically with Kyle Hamilton, apparently he was able to go back in the locker room. There's a whole battery of tests on the field. So no-go signs are if he's amnesic. You ask what's called, there's a SCAT-3 protocol, Maddox sides. So you ask him about orientation, you ask him about plays in the game and where he is. And if he doesn't answer those questions properly, that's no-go. So we could presume that there's an eye movement test called nystagmus. We could presume that Reed Blankenship didn't pass the sideline tests. He must have been disoriented, didn't remember plays in the game, or he had some abnormal eye movements, and therefore he was ruled out. Whereas Kyle Hamilton, you know, excellent safety, apparently was able to fly through all of those and to pass not one but 2 neurological exams, focused exams, having to do with his speech, his memory, and his balance. And he was able to come back and play the game successfully. So I think with also the fact that Blankenship had an earlier concussion in the season, there's something called second impact syndrome, where you have to be extra cautious because there are certain neurochemical changes that could occur. So I think they were very safe. And I think using an abundance of caution, they did not bring Reed Blankenship back in the game.
Hey, Doc, going back to Devontae Smith for just a moment, because when you talk about these type of hamstring injuries that could be reoccurring at time, and, of course, you want to guard against re-aggravating it to the point where he could be out 2 to 3 weeks, how much do you have to guard against cold weather also playing into this? Because, as we know, muscles contract a little bit more when it comes to the colder weather.
It's very true. And it was a cold game today. You saw that there was snow flurries during the game, and we know that muscle elasticity is affected by thermal factors, and you pointed that out. So the fact it's a cold game, a windy game on a hard field, I think that does, you know, play into it. And I think in retrospect, they were smart to not play him.
The concern I have right now at this point is Dallas Goedert. He's been beat up throughout the year. He had a hamstring that kept him out of some games. Now he's got a knee injury. Any word on, the extent of that, what exactly it is? But I remember him being ruled out right somewhere in the third quarter.
Yeah, I don't have any updates on Dallas Goedert. I've seen a bunch of discussion about Blankenship. We can hope that it was only a strain, and because he's been subject to these type of soft tissue injuries, he may not even need an MRI tomorrow. I'm sure he's going to go through a full physical exam and X-rays in the locker room. But he's an important guy, and he did make a couple important plays in the second half. But you're right, he did go out. So I think that bears watching. But as far as any preliminary reports from any reporters in the locker room, I haven't heard anything. In certain ways, no news is good news.
Absolutely. Dr. Bruce Grossinger, thank you so much. And, hopefully, I can get cocky because I'm not playing in the game, but hopefully the Eagles get a nice long fourth quarter break against the Carolina Panthers. Everybody can rest up for that Steelers game. How's that sound?
I hope so. I'd all be in attendance, and hopefully we'll have an easy one next week. And wish you all a great Thanksgiving weekend, and thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Dr. Bruce Grossinger, our sports doc, joining us right there. Appreciate you.